Thank you very much, John. My name is Sean Barton, and I've been a programmer for almost 15 years now. All of that here in Austin. I'm actually from Toronto, came down here to be a game developer. Now I'm part of a new company here in Austin that we contract out programmers. I guess another way to put that is that I'm a free-range game developer. Before that, I worked at Junction Point, as John had said, worked at Space-Time Studios, worked at NCSoft and Microsoft, or Digital Anvil, which is where I got my start. And what I want to talk about today is interviewing. I thought more people would be laughing right now. I've been interviewing candidates for about 8 years now in the industry. About 5 of those years have been in a leadership capacity as a lead programmer. And because this is the game industry, also every couple of years I find myself having to interview. So I get a bit of experience there. And where I'm a little bit different is I actually really enjoy interviewing. Not being interviewed myself, that part sucks, but I love interviewing candidates. I like meeting new people. I get excited at the concept of them joining my team and seeing how that works out. It's something I've given a lot of thought of over the years. I get annoyed when I am in an interview room with a peer who is interviewing a candidate and I can tell that they're not into it, that they don't care. And there's been some trends that I have noticed in the way that we interview people, and I would like to challenge everyone to change that. And keeping with the theme of this being Austin, I think this is a way that we could help keep Austin a little bit different. Let the hosers that are out in LA or San Francisco or Seattle keep with the norm, and we can have a bit of that Texan spirit of being like sort of like a no-nonsense shop. So first off, I see this in about half the places that I either interview with or half the places that I've worked with, something called the timed programming test. And this is the first introduction that you will have with a company where they get your resume, they like you, and then they say, okay, we want to set up an appointment with you where we send you a programming test, and it's chock full of stuff that you need to do, but the catch is that you only have 1 hour, maybe 2, to fill that all out. When I ask my peers, why is it that we interview people this way, one of the things that I hear from them is that, well, we want to know how these people work under pressure. Well, it turns out that sociology has figured this out 100 years ago. People work not well under pressure. So why do we want to put this onto people? And why do we want their first feeling of getting to know us be something that's very stressful for them? And I often ask, well, if we want them to be stressed out, why don't we also make sure that they're sleep deprived and hungry as well? I've also heard that, well, it needs to be timed because we don't want the candidate to cheat. These tests are you have to be so engaged while you're doing them that you have no time whatsoever to look up answers on the internet. You can't have your friend take a look at here's something I did, could you take a look at it? But I think that's ridiculous because when you're at your job, we use the internet. When I have a big programming task to do, I have Wikipedia up at my side. If I'm about to submit this code into the code base, I want my friend to review the work and make sure that it won't break the build when I submit it. I also hear that the kind of tests that I like to give is that I want someone to be given something that they work on their own time. It's more of a complicated example of them writing code. And I've heard people say that we can't have them do that because they might have someone else write the program for them. I have never seen that happen at other places that I work at. And when we bring someone in for an interview, I like to have code that they've written to say, well, hey, why is it that you went about it this way? Why did you name the class this? Why is everything here public access? And if they had someone else write the code for them, there's no way that they could defend that. And I've never seen it happen. The worst job interview I ever had in my life was about 10 years ago. I won't say the name of the company, although I will say that they're not around anymore. And they had asked me some questions about C++ and some other programming stuff that I've done in the past. And then one of them asked me, well, I have a question for you. It's a little bit different. Why are manhole covers round? And the first thing that popped in my mind, and I couldn't get it out of my brain, was, have you ever seen Superman 2? There's this part where Ursa picks up a manhole cover and says, "Oh, Superman," and chucks it at him, and he goes flying across the street. And that's all I could think about was how awesome that movie was and how like Ursa got the best of Superman. And these guys are looking at me, and they're like, why isn't he answering this question? And my brain is asking that as well. It's like, you fool, you're in a job interview, you need to get on with it. But I couldn't think about anything. And then they're trying to steer me into an answer, and like, you know, why is it round? Like, maybe you could roll it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, you could roll it. Okay, what else? And I'm like, and you know, if I could go back in time, I really wish I had mentioned Superman, so maybe I could get that. You know, and it's funny, like, it is funny now, but I think I puked in the parking lot after that interview. You know, and I didn't get that job. And I think if it came down to that stupid question about manhole covers, that actually makes me kind of angry. I also don't like questions that are based on a riddle. Often I'll be in a job interview, or I'll be given the interview, and the person beside me says, I want to ask you a question, and I want to see how you think. And that's when you know you're going to be asked something that you're going to be forced to think outside the box. There's some kind of trick to it. And I think it's ridiculous, I really do, that someone can ask you a question. You'll struggle with it for a couple of minutes. Maybe you'll get lucky and you'll figure out what the trick is. And based on that, they're going to be able to tell how you think. And also, and this is just the way our brains work, when we're given a question like that, and this is where we come up with the phrase stairway wit, when you're leaving the job interview, when you're going home that night, you're, oh, of course. And that's the kind of thing that we do in our day job. We're given a difficult task to work with. We work on it for a little while. We go home, and when we're having a shower, we think of what the solution is. And that's good. We get paid for that. And that's why I would rather give a candidate an assignment that they can work on their own time over a couple of days to come up with the hard stuff. So when you're interviewing a candidate, I want to really get to the important things. Like, do they have the basic skills that we're looking for is the most important? And then after that, it's, you know, I guess what Patrick would say is, are you a dick? But I would actually say, are you a jerk? And I want to talk about the technical skills that really do match the job that we have. And I will say that this is something that I have difficulty with even now, because there's part of me that thinks that if you're a game programmer, you have to know what the dot product is, you have to know how to project vectors onto each other. But we actually live in a world now where these game teams are so large, and what we have to do is so, it touches everything that, you know, if you're a server programmer, maybe you don't need to know that. So I can let that go a bit. So yeah, I know. Okay, so what if you're in a position that you're looking for a job? And I've had to say no to candidates far more often than I would like to. And so I would just like to give everyone here, if you're ever in that situation again, and you will be because it's the game industry, of little things that you can look out for when you're interviewing. The number one reason why I've ever had to say no to someone is they have had no enthusiasm whatsoever. And I know that programmers are famous for being antisocial and for being withdrawn, but I have to see just something from you, why you like this work, why you want to work here. What is it about programming that you enjoy? Probably the worst example I ever had is I asked someone, you know, well, what brings you here today? And he just looked at me and said, well, duh, you have an opening and I need a job. And he wasn't kidding. And I'm afraid that was a no right there. I also think it's a good idea, you can sort of reverse roles and say, you know, well, you know, this is what I like about programming and whatnot, but why don't you tell me what it is about this place that's great and why I would want to work here? And that gets to the next thing, where I think you should always have good questions prepared. I am surprised when I end an interview and I say, well, do you have any questions for me? And the candidate goes, no, I think I'm good. And like, that is a lost opportunity to make a connection with me. Probably the best question I have ever been asked when I asked someone this was, well, why don't you tell me what your greatest technical challenge was on the last game that you shipped? And at the time, that last game was Epic Mickey. And would you believe that the greatest technical risk for us on shipping that game was the UI? We ended up having a great conversation about it. Are you shaking your head? You don't think that?
No, I'm curious as to how.
Well, yeah, exactly. And that's how we ended up having this super great conversation about that. And I walked away from that thinking that this is someone that I want on my team. And it was really just because we had this really great back and forth. Is this still relevant? My wife was teasing me that my Simpson, Sean, you're too old. You can't use Simpsons anymore. You got to go with South Park or something. If this is something that you're concerned about getting in front of people and talking in an interview situation, I would say join Toastmasters. I've been a member there for a couple of years now. I went there because I had a crippling fear of public speaking. It was so bad, but now I can manage to get up here and not throw up. It's fantastic. Yeah, thank you. And one thing I want to say about this is that if this is something that you are interested in, I think it helps in everything in life. If you want to come and visit my club that I go to and you're thinking of joining, I will pay your initiation fees. I think it is that important. Lastly, I just want to say that because I am a free-range game developer now and I get paid when people need programming work, if you need a programmer, let me know. And we're also looking to expand and add more programmers to our mix. So if you are a programmer, I'd like to talk to you as well.